They laughed at his tattoo. At the U.S. military base in Djibouti, the air was thick with sweat, dust, and arrogance. Young recruits marched under the blistering sun, trying to prove themselves. But there was always one target for their jokes. A quiet man with a tattoo on his neck, Daniel Cross, 29. Logistics clerk. The man no one noticed, except for that tattoo, a strange mark inked permanently on the side of his neck. Dark, sharp lines forming a butterfly-like emblem, but not quite. To the others it looked like a bad decision after a night of whiskey and regrets. "Hey, Cross, nice nightclub stamp," one recruit sneered. "Careful, he might flutter at the enemy," another shouted. The cafeteria roared with laughter. Daniel didn't respond. He never did. But then, one moment changed everything. The day a legendary SEAL commander walked in, saw Daniel's tattoo, and froze. Then, in front of the entire base, the commander saluted him first, and suddenly, the joke wasn't funny anymore. Before we dive into this shocking story, tell me in the comments, have you ever seen someone underestimated, only for the truth to flip the entire room upside down? I read every comment. Daniel Cross wasn't built like the others, not the broad-shouldered, loud, chest-beating soldier that drew attention. He was average height, lean, clean-cut, his uniform always sharp, his boots spotless, his job, logistics. He handled crates, inventory, paperwork, the backbone of every operation. Though no one gave him credit for it, to most, he was invisible. Except for the tattoo. It was burned into his neck, always visible above his collar. A strange emblem. A butterfly-like shape surrounded by coordinates and markings. It looked out of place, too artistic for a soldier, and the base loved to mock it. "You trying to join the circus, Cross?" "Wrong career path, buddy." "Hey, is that your girlfriend's design?" Daniel ignored every word, but the truth was, the tattoo wasn't just ink. It was a scarred memory, a mark etched during a mission so dark, most believed it never happened. It was another blazing day when the convoy rolled in. 6 figures stepped out of blacked-out Humvees, Tier 1 operators, the kind of men who didn't smile, didn't joke, didn't need to prove anything. Their reputations filled the silence. They walked into the supply depot where Daniel stood behind the counter, clipboard in hand, calm, expression steady. The lead operator, tall, scarred, built like a wall, eyed him. "You the clerk?" "I'm the logistics officer of record," Daniel replied. The man smirked. "Didn't ask for your resume." Another operator chuckled, his eyes drifting to the tattoo. "What the hell is that? A butterfly? You serious?" "I've seen tougher ink on high school kids." The men laughed. Loud, dismissive, Daniel handed over the signed-off crate without a word. But then, the last man walked in. He was older. White hair at the temples, eyes sharp as steel. His presence silenced even the loudest voices. This was Commander Briggs, a decorated SEAL leader with scars deeper than his medals. He stepped forward, saw Daniel, and froze. His eyes locked on the tattoo. The room went still. And then, slowly, Commander Briggs did something that shocked every man in that depot. He raised his hand and saluted Daniel first. The laughter died. Every operator stared, jaws slack. Daniel hesitated, then returned the salute. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" Briggs asked quietly. Daniel gave a small nod. Briggs leaned in, whispered 4 words. "You were at Ember." Every muscle in the room tensed. The tattoo wasn't a butterfly. It was the Ember Sigil, a classified mark worn only by survivors of Operation Ember, a Black Ops mission so dangerous, so buried in secrecy, that even Tier 1 operatives whispered about it like a ghost story. 5 years ago, a team of 30 operatives went deep behind enemy lines in Nuristan. It was supposed to be routine, but it turned into a massacre. Ambushed, outnumbered, cut off. Only 3 operatives survived. Their mark of survival, the Ember Sigil, burned into them as a silent brotherhood. Daniel was one of them. But officially, Operation Ember didn't exist. The government buried it. The survivors erased. No medals, no recognition, just shadows. And now, one of those shadows stood in a dusty supply depot, mocked for the tattoo that kept him alive. That night the jokes didn't stop. If anything, they grew louder. A blurry photo of Daniel's tattoo was taped to the cafeteria wall with the word "poser" written across it in red. Even officers joined in. Major Sanderson sneered at him. "Looks like your ink has more clearance than you do." The room burst into laughter. Daniel calmly placed his fork down, stood, and without a word, walked away. But the silence he left behind was heavier than the laughter. The next dawn shattered with chaos. Alarms blared. Sirens cut through the base. Shouts echoed, "Incoming! Breach on the north perimeter!" But the cameras were dead. The radar blind. The base powerless EMP strike. Soldiers scrambled, confused, disoriented, and at the southern checkpoint, standing alone, was Daniel. His earpiece crackled with static. His radio dead, but Daniel didn't panic. His eyes narrowed. His breath steady. Far in the distance, shadows moved. 6 figures, fast, silent, wrong. Black Ops infiltrators. The same kind of men who had ambushed his team years ago. Daniel flicked the safety off his rifle. The first man cut through the fence. Daniel fired once, center mass. Dropped. The others hesitated. Then charged, flashbang. He ducked. Counted 3. Popped up, 2 more down. The fourth man lunged with a blade. Daniel sidestepped, slammed him into the dirt, precise and brutal. The last 2 tried to retreat. Too late. Daniel moved like a ghost, surgical, efficient. When backup finally arrived, armored vehicles rolling, soldiers shouting, they froze at the sight. 5 bodies on the ground. 1 man, standing, Daniel. His rifle steady, blood on his sleeve. Not his own. Commander Briggs was the first to approach. "What the hell happened here?" Daniel's voice was calm. They bypassed radar. EMP drone. 6-man strike team. All neutralized. Alone. Daniel nodded once. The soldiers around him stared, wide-eyed. The same men who mocked him now looked at him with awe and fear. Briggs turned to the others. His voice low, almost reverent. "Never mock the Ember Sigil. Not again." The next morning, everything was different. The cafeteria, once filled with laughter, was silent when Daniel walked in. No jokes, no whispers. Instead, soldiers stood and saluted. The ember tattoo on his neck was no longer a joke. It was a legend, but Daniel didn't change. He didn't boast, didn't explain. He just carried his tray, ate his food, and returned to his duties. Because for him, the tattoo wasn't about respect. It was about survival, about the brothers he lost in Ember, about never forgetting. And while others finally recognized him, Daniel knew the truth. Legends aren't born. They're scarred into existence. Daniel's story is a reminder. Never judge a mark you don't understand. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the military should reveal the truth about secret operations like Ember? Or should some ghosts remain in the shadows? Comment below. I read everyone. Smash that like button if this story inspired you. Share this video with someone who underestimates quiet people. And subscribe to Black Response, because we tell the stories others are too afraid to touch. And if you want more, go watch our previous video. Cops raided a black old man's home at 3 a.m., but they feared what they found inside. It's on your screen right now. Tap it and prepare to be shocked.